Good evening, and we have David Scherrer with us, and we'll talk to him shortly.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
We'll have a little bit of an introduction first, and we have Gabe over here on the all the wires and the boxes and the cameras and he's got so many things over there. I don't know how he keeps it. He's like more than multitasking, isn't he?
Yes, I wouldn't want to be him right at the moment.
But he's a photographer extraordinaire.
Oh, is that right?
So you got to go see his Powerhouse Studios sometime.
Oh, I'd love to do that. It sounds like a lot of fun.
And if you have requests, go on Facebook Live and type it in down there to ask us questions or ask David questions. We are not doing the studio at Tuned In Radio, right?
Right.
Right. Phone is not hooked up, but if you have a question or a guest or somebody you want to ask me a question, Susan at tunedinradio.us is an email. Send me that and I'll look it up, and if you have somebody extraordinary to come on the show, we'll get them on here. The upcoming events. The Museum Center at 5 Points is doing their, I don't know if it's nightly, but they're doing some videos around the Old Christmas.
Oh, that's going to be great.
So Old Christmas is January 6th, which is Wednesday. But they've been having some of the storytellers on there. The two storytellers that I've had on my show, plus a few others. So we have that. Go to the Museum Center, either their internet site or their Facebook site, and you can see their videos, and it's awesome stories. The possum and something, I forgot the possum and something, but the story pretty cool. The Christmas lights downtown are still hooked up, and I do believe they're still going to have them tonight and then take them down tomorrow. But have you walked downtown with the lights on?
I did. It's absolutely
Gorgeous.
beautiful.
I cannot hardly wait for next year to see.
They
said they're going to try to do it even better next year.
Oh my goodness! And
How can they do that?
It reminds you of such a warm holiday feeling of looking at it. It's just really different being in a small town versus in a great big city and seeing it. It's just very warm. And
the other night, I think it was Saturday night. No, maybe it was New Year's Eve. I looked out. And there was a bunch of people just walking hand in hand, looking at the lights, taking pictures in front of the lights.
That's beautiful.
It was so cool.
Especially amongst this pandemic that we're all having, to deal with.
But
so
still with people you live with, you can go
absolutely.
walk hand in hand.
That's right.
Yeah. Story time with Dewey, the dragon, Komodo dragon at Cleveland Bradley County Library tomorrow, 10:30 to 11:15. Go to Facebook Live, and they have their story time. And I'm sure the Komodo dragon's not going to talk. It's going to be somebody else. Update on the Artist Here partnership. We've got the mural, and the Artist Eye is working on it. We still need a bunch of people to buy the blocks. We're making a quilt on the back of my building. Oh. And the money that we make above what we pay for the supplies to do the mural, and to pay, Isaiah.
Mm-hmm.
To pay him, then we're going to raise some money for the Artists Here partnership.
Oh, that's fantastic.
So we're hoping if we sell all the blocks that we can maybe raise about $1,500.
Well, maybe I can actually chip in and give you a painting to sell that you can contribute towards that.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So
That'd
let's make
be
that
nice.
happen.
So anyway, if you want to get a block, you can go to the Artist Eye Bayless at gmail.com, or get in touch with me either at the shop or through the Susan at Tuned In Radio. And then the gallery at the museum. Have you gone and see it?
I haven't had a chance to get over there yet.
Oh, they have the neatest little stuff.
Is that
and
right?
some bigger stuff, but they have this guy that makes these fish nets that we had on here. He had his boat here. We had a whole big boat in here that he made, but he makes fish nets. He's got them over there. And then Jackie Corey that makes all kinds of stuff. I don't know what she makes or what there is out there that she hasn't made, but
my goodness,
she's dabbled in everything. And so they have that, and they are open Thursday to Saturday, 10 until 4. So go in there and get, if you got to get somebody an odd, they have everything, but you want to get them something for a gift. That's a neat place to go because it's art. along with Hetzel. But we'll talk about what Hetzel's doing this weekend in just a minute.
Don't you love giving gifts that are something original?
Oh, yes.
Something that somebody can keep forever, and just things that, is sentimental to them, or that they were touched about, something that they will always have.
Yeah, it's something that, it's not a regular cup. Like my cup that Rick made me. Yay! And I'm trying to decide if I really want to bring it here and let it be here, because I'm afraid somebody's going to go away with it. It says Hyder Hangout on it, but it's special to me. I'm afraid to use it. I'm afraid I'll drop it or something. So that's how special it is.
If you drop it, I'll make you another one.
Okay, I'll bring it here. We'll put it here, and it'll be my cup here.
There you go.
The Red Clay Historic Park, they have their submissions in for their Cherokee History and Tale of Tears event. They are going to pick the winners on January 14th. I don't know if you heard about that thing ahead of time, but then they're going to have sometime in February. They're going to open the gallery, and the entries are going to be there through the summer.
That's going to be fantastic.
Yeah. Yes,
absolutely.
AR Workshop tonight and tomorrow night. So if you're at AR Workshop, turn the radio on over there. They're making their chunky blankets. Everybody's been calling me and asking where do they get the chunky yarn and the chunky blankets. I said across the way over at AR Workshop.
What is a chunky blanket? I don't know what that is.
Okay, the yarn's this big.
Oh, I'll be darned.
The yarn's this big, okay? And you hand weave it. Or hand knit it, I think it is. And you make a blanket, and they're chunky.
I'll be darned.
Awesome.
I'll have to get mine.
Yeah, you have to go over there. Well, they're giving classes, so you have to go over there and make one.
Oh, I don't know. I get too messy with paint, so they may not want me streaming in and out of there.
Paints like I do.
I do.
My husband always says whenever I paint, I get more on me than on the wall.
I just love throwing it.
Hey, he's a man after my own heart here. My husband, if he's out at home, he'd probably spit out his coffee or his drink.
I shut the door, and then I just put on an apron, and I go to...
I don't paint like that kind of paint.
Well, have you not seen that video of the artist that actually kicks the paint buckets, and the paint just splatters everywhere?
Or like that elephant that does that.
Yeah, like the elephant that paints with its trunk.
Well, see, I paint walls.
I've got to learn to paint with my toes, maybe.
like I've probably only painted 2 more paintings before the one where I did the pour that we were here 4 weeks ago. That's the first time I painted anything that beautiful. I'm just so excited.
Awesome.
So anyway, Wednesday at the Cleveland Public Library, they have the Crafts for Everyone, 3 to 3:45, and you pick your stuff up ahead of time and then participate in that. Thursday, they have their origami. Just tune into their Facebook Live, 4:30, and that's the Cleveland Bradley County Public Library. So tune into Facebook Live for them. And we're done with. There's not a lot happening this week.
Sunday.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We're down to you. And I guess I will let you talk about what's happening Sunday since it's at a current event, and then we will get into you.
Oh no.
Okay, so let's talk about the Art for Vets first.
Okay, Art for Vets. It's in association with the Wanderlanger Art Gallery in downtown Chattanooga. Rick and myself had a long conversation during the show, and we really wanted to reach out. Which tonight's show is a little bit about dealing with emotional baggage and how you can come out of that. So. As we all know, a lot of vets go through a tremendous amount of pain and anxiety after they are exposed to war and, some of the less attractive things in life. So we wanted to provide an outlet to help them paint it out. That's what I call it, is let's paint it out. So the program is called the Art for the Vets. It starts this coming weekend, actually on Saturday. You can look at the Wanderlanger Art Gallery site, and the time for that is actually posted on there, and a few other details.
How do you spell Wanderlanger?
I'm an artist. No, Wanderlinger, Wanderlanger.
Okay.
Art Gallery and brewery. So it's of course downtown. So it's free to the vets to come in, and they get to learn some painting techniques and just maybe learn how to express. It's not where we're not giving a per se a class on trying to be a fine artist. This is, letting them come in, letting them express themselves and paint, and let them feeling that texture and, touch the canvas and see what they can do. And so we're going to be doing this like every other week all the way through February. The dates are all posted on the Wonderlinger, but I think the next one is the 23rd of January.
And we'll have Rick on here before then, so we'll talk a little bit
He
more
will
about
be,
it.
and I will actually be there on the 23rd, and I'm going to be talking about artwork and working with a lot of the vets. And so our goal is, if everything works the way we really want it to, is in March we want to have a live show from what all of the vets have done. Now, these are
that'd be
people
cool.
that have never done art. I mean, most of them most likely have not done artwork, so they'll be able to actually see their artwork in a show, and the proceeds from that show, from any artwork that sell, actually goes to them, because a lot of them may be homeless. So we
So
don't.
do they have to come to every Saturday, or can they just come to one Saturday?
No, we're not putting any kind of constraints upon them. They can come as they can come, as long as we're doing the classes, and then they don't have to pay for any art supplies. Everything is being donated for them, and that also brings me to the point, if you would like to contribute to the program, we are asking folks, if you can drop off something at the Hetzel. Either I, myself, or Rick will go by and pick it up at the Hetzel Art Gallery. We'll be happy to collect some of the art supplies, whether that's just some canvas or brushes or a canvas or a brush and paint. It doesn't have to be expensive paint. It's just, if whatever you might have that you're not using, or if you...
Does it matter what kind of paint?
Not at all, absolutely. I mean, I would say that most likely the classes will all be done in acrylic. So, I would say acrylic would be the best. Although I'm sure if there is oil involved, we're happy to take whatever can be donated.
Okay.
So,
Well, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
And we'll hear more about that from Rick. Of course, we'll hear
Absolutely.
about his art too. And I think he's coming on the 18th.
okay,
So
great.
that's a couple weeks.
Mhm.
The other thing is current event or upcoming event is your show
Yes.
Sunday.
This Sunday from 2 to 8 o'clock at the Hetzel Art Gallery and Studios here in Cleveland. So yes, it's a solo show. It's actually my first solo show here in the Cleveland area. So I hope a lot of people will come out for it.
4:30 and 6:30 is
The Artist Talk.
The artist talk. You'll talk a little bit for
We're going to talk. Well, I'll be there the whole time. I will be there the entire duration from 2 to 8. And I'm really, we are doing the whole social distancing with it, trying to keep everybody safe. And of course, masks are required. But we're still going to have a little bit of one-on-one time where that, I can maybe talk to a few people at a time, and then we're going to give a talk about the inspiration behind the artwork and some of the places that I'm coming from with my work. So it'd be a great time for people to ask questions and have interaction and touch and feel and just, really enjoy
because
the
he's
day.
got 3D stuff on his paints. And will you let us touch your paints?
I don't mind. You can
Your
absolutely,
paint
you're not going to
stuff.
hurt it. I touch it all the time.
Yeah. Well, sometimes quilt artists don't want people to touch them a lot, but
Yeah.
that's because the oil and the skin can make the fabric. But I
Right.
like my quilts so people can touch them. So
Yeah, I don't mind people touching the artwork. I mean, I think that, there's something to it when I touch the paint and the texture, and I think to really appreciate it as something other than just a beautiful piece of artwork is to feel it. And when you feel it, it brings on a whole new meaning.
okay, so I got a very short blurb off of your Facebook page, I guess it was. And it says that David Scherrer creates art that is reflective of his life's journey and the spirit of his soul.
Mm-hmm.
Images that emerge from the artist's dreams and subconscious mind challenge the viewer to search for the unexpressed and the silenced. And that was shortened a 5-paragraph thing. Very short. But my first question I always ask an artist is how you got into your art. And you can start at 3 years old, or
Well, I think it's really not so much about what age I started it at. I started painting as a way to, it's kind of a deep subject, so I'll just try to keep it just as brief as possible. I went through a tremendous change of life, and I was trying to figure out what do I do, where do I go. I owned several businesses, and my professional career, I have predominantly always worked for myself. And then I went through a personal life change in my relationship. After 20-something years, I found myself alone. And
I read that on that article that you sent me a link to on that magazine.
oh, from the interview from Sapir Magazine, yes.
Yes.
So I went through that, and all of the things that pile up inside you, that a lot of people just don't ever deal with those issues. They don't deal with the mental background of life and then they can't go on. They are always stuck in the back. Well, I was one of those that got stuck, and it took me forever to figure out how could I do this. I mean, literally, I was at one point in time where I wanted to end it all. I didn't want to be here anymore.
I've been there.
And
Actually, 4 times.
And if you ever drive up that mountain or a mountain and you say, okay, this is it, I'm done. And then all of a sudden your car just stops. I don't know why I didn't hit the brakes, and I just felt this most calm, the most calming effect came over me. It's really, it's very difficult and it's very emotional. So I try to really only touch on the highlights of it because I don't want to get that way. But,
it's allowed.
It is just one of those things that happen.
Emotional.
They are, and I think acknowledging our emotions as part of our life is very important. And for me, it was. So I just was dealing. Then I had to deal with the death of my mother, and both of my parents, my mother and my father, passed away within a couple of years of each other. And I was extremely close to her. She was my best friend, and she was the person that I could tell anything to. And I never felt judged. I never felt, she was just kind of a guiding light in my life. So she was a tremendous loss. So I think after, like many of us may experience in our lives, is after you experience so many things in your life that it builds up into you, and it builds up and you don't know how to get rid of it. And as a guy, we are taught not to show that most of the time in our lives, or to be strong. And then of course, having the military background there too, that macho part of you takes over, and you're like, no, I can't feel, I can't do this. Well, that's all fine until you actually do feel. And then what do you do with those emotions?
Right.
Well, mine was, I don't want to deal with these emotions, but I needed to deal with the emotions. So I went back down that mountain, and I'm like, okay, maybe this isn't so bad. So I continued to go through the breakup of that relationship and shutting down businesses, and it just kept piling and piling and piling. Well, I became a complete mess. I mean, I just was like, I would like cry at the drop of a hat, or if you were telling me a story, that had a sad element, even if I didn't know you or know the person, it would touch me emotionally. And I just literally couldn't keep myself together. So it got to that point from compiling all of these emotions from so many different experiences in my life, through military, through personal life, through loss of my entire family pretty much,
right.
That it just became more than I could deal with. And so one night I went to bed and I just asked God, I said, God, I need help. How do I do this? How do I deal with my life now? What do I do? How do I survive? I've always been self-sufficient. I've always been the kind of person that has been a go-getter and an achiever in my life. Not very much had I ever worked for another company since I was very young. I had the little things when I was in high school and this, that, and another, and even in some college, but never in my younger part of my life. I owned my own business for 25 years.
Which is a thing in itself.
Which is a thing in itself. And then when all of a sudden, the crash of 2008 hit it, and, you start having to cut back, and I was feeling all of that from the loss of employees, and then having to actually go through and
It's like losing a
shutting
child.
it down. It really is. And I don't think that people realize, that business owners, it is your child. It's very difficult to not become emotionally attached. It's that word, emotional. It's so much a part of our lives. We're emotionally attached to almost everything. And then when you realize that that's all gone now, and you've made decisions in your life that you need to move on, and you don't know how, it just all builds and it builds. So this one night, I went to sleep, and I had this, you can call it a dream, you can call it whatever you want, but it said paint. Paint. And I'm like,
Had you painted before?
I've always been very talented. I've played with it. I had never professionally done it. I never really. It was just for me. It was just for me.
So you never took classes in school?
No,
or
never had
a
profession.
Played in the back.
Yes,
of the
exactly,
house.
kind of thing.
Okay.
Absolutely. So that dream said paint. So the next morning I woke up and I'm sitting at the table. I'm like, paint. I mean, okay, paint a house, paint a house, paint what? And then it's just the answer started coming to me, and it just said, go buy paint, buy canvases, buy this, buy that. So I did. I went to Walmart. I bought I didn't know anything about the quality of real artistic paint, or, what kind of brushes that I should try to paint with, or, gessoing canvases, or any of that kind of stuff. So I went over and bought the cheapest paint I could find, and I sat down when I got back to the house, and I started painting. And when I put my hands into that paint and took that brush, it was shaking. And I was shocked, because it was, even though, it wasn't this huge, it was just a small piece, a very small piece, but it was beautiful. That was the first painting I ever sold. And when I sold that paint, and it sold within just 2 weeks of me actually painting it, I didn't have a clue what I was getting into. It became very apparent to me after that who was speaking to me that night, late at night, that said paint, because ever since that time I have done very well selling my artwork.
So you were meant to do that.
Yes, I was meant to do it, and I dream it. It's kind of like I know what's there. I get these thoughts, and if something bad has happened that's reminding me of something that I've been through, and I just can't deal with it, I may get up in the middle of the night, and I always start with the colors of my dreams. So it's like, if I'm dreaming in reds and green, blue, for example, that's the first color, and I just put it out on my palette, and then I start painting. And a lot of times I don't know what I'm painting, but then all of a sudden it just happens. It just happens, and it comes out to be what it is. So all of my artwork I'm very emotional about and very attached to, and they all pretty much have some kind of a story that goes with it. So it's not just like picking up a brush or a palette knife and saying, okay, this is what it is. There's really something to it.
So you and I meld a little bit, because I am a trauma survivor. And my therapy that I learned in West Virginia that pretty much saved my life, my current husband, and I went up there. I wasn't having flashbacks in my lifetime until I was with him in a safe place for like 3 years, and then I was having 10, 15 flashbacks a day. We went up there, and their therapy includes drawing. So I understand, but I do stick figures, but you get the idea of the story on this
Absolutely.
drawing. And I've done a little bit of emotional quilting. So I have a couple of quilts that if people, they look at it, they're cute. And if you knew the story behind it, you wouldn't think it was cute, but you're welcome to look at it as an art.
But it's the way of making, the way I look at it, and maybe you do the same, is when I'm painting, I'm taking, most of the time, a very significant piece of my life that affected me in some way. It
Right.
deeply affected me, either the loss of my mother, as I mentioned, or any other significant, unattractive story in my life. And it's my way of turning that around. So by putting this on canvas, it allows me to take something that was very ugly and make something that's very beautiful. And then the best thing that ever happens is when I actually sell that piece of art, because that bad part of my life that I turned into something beautiful leaves my life. It goes home with the people that are going to enjoy this beautiful piece of artwork. And hopefully at some point I've been able to explain to them or share with them the thing behind it. So I'm hoping and I'm thinking that maybe even with your work, when you're doing those blankets, maybe it's the same. I'm not sure.
Well, I've done a few things where I had to get rid of it, and I drew a picture. Basically, mine's a storyboard of the trauma, and then you read it back, and what it basically does is moves it from short-term memory to long-term memory, and you quit having flashbacks about it. But the quilts, it puts it, part of me is on there. Part of me is on there, and I have done things where I've drawn things and then took them out in the driveway and burn them up to make them go away.
I think we've all been there.
I'm not saying that my drawing was bad, but the story behind the drawing, I wanted to get rid of it.
Right.
So yeah, emotional art to me is very, very fascinating.
It is.
Because people don't understand how deep it can be and how deep art really is, because it's not just you just putting something on the canvas or you taking a picture. I'm sure, Gabe, that you have emotion in your photography.
All the time.
All the time, yeah. So, and the quilters, their quilts are art, and it's part of them. And somebody who receives a quilt and doesn't think anything of it has no idea how much of their being they put into the art or the quilt, or the little critter that I got from Jarrett. I got that little purple guy. Did you see that? I had to get it. So I've got it at the shop, but it's part of you out there to the rest of the world.
It is, and it's a very significant part to most of the artists that paint from emotion or are involved in whatever it is, and it's their way of survival. It's their way of dealing with all of these things, and so when they use that phrase, you're taking a piece of me home with you when you buy a piece of artwork. A lot of people don't really realize that.
That's true.
Yes.
And that's the same with same with quilts, is the same with anything, sculpture, any of it. You're taking part of that person home with you. So you need to be it's to me it's just very deep.
It is. And even on another story, briefly here, I have a follower, a customer that I've painted that has collected a lot of my work, and his daughter, I want to be careful what part of this I share because it's his story, but his daughter committed suicide. He was deaf, so he could read lips, and I met him during a show that I was doing in Florida, and he came up to me looking at a piece of artwork, and he started crying, and he's like, "That's my daughter." The piece of that work was titled Kaleidoscope. And so he shared with me how deeply emotional this piece of art touched him. And it was in greens and yellows and blues. And if you could just think about looking through a kaleidoscope and turning that dial, that's the way the painting flowed. And he shared with me his daughter's story of him coming home, and apparently she had committed suicide, and he found her there. And for a really long while after she had passed away, he would go to that room and he would open the door because he left the room exactly the way she left it. Well, one night he goes to the room and he opens the door and he sees a kaleidoscope moving. So if you can think about, the Star Wars movies where they have those light sticks and they're moving all around and doing all these different things. So it shocked him so bad that he actually fell on the floor, and his wife was there with him. He got up and backed out of her room, and he went back and looked again, and it was that. And he was just so convinced that was his daughter sharing with him that she was okay. So during the show in Florida that I was doing, he came up to me and saw Kaleidoscope, and apparently, according to him, it was the pattern, it was the colors, and that he was supposed to own it. Well, nothing was going to happen. He was going to buy that right now, and he did. And in fact, I've done a couple of other pieces for him, another one called Prism, since that first meeting with him. And he shared with me that art really helped him heal from that.
So the recipients of the art can heal from the...
Yes, which I found very surprising. I mean, but in another way, if you think about, maybe not, because I'm sure a lot of the listeners that are listening to us today have all encountered some kind of emotional trauma in their life, or gone through things that they don't understand, or, and...
Well, everybody does, because that's part of being human.
Absolutely. And don't we relate to the artwork? I mean,
yes.
Normally we don't buy a picture because it's just pretty. I mean, we buy a piece of artwork because we can relate to it, right. Or we see something in it that reminds us of something.
Well, how many pictures do we have here today?
We brought 5. Unless we're talking about the one that you're about to have a fit over here.
Well, we're gonna look at some of these. Let's and then you can tell the story behind it.
Why don't we start with that smaller piece that you've got right there? Yeah.
Okay. And you can tell us the story behind it, and I don't know which is up and
down. You got it right there. That piece is titled "The Rhythm of Life."
Is that good, Gabe?
So the Rhythm of Life, it's got a lot of metallics in it, and you'll see the heart line in the center here. That piece is about what makes us go round. It was really very much about picking up my life again and going on with it and keeping rhythm with life. So it's an abstract of a city with the heartbeat going through there. So it's the rhythm of life, the rhythm of the city. That piece, it's cool. Very highly textured. It's all in metallics.
Yeah, and it has got a lot of texture.
A lot of texture to it, and it's really, you can feel it all. It's really kind of cool. I love it. So that piece has really been very unique.
And is this oil and acrylic, or just...
That's oil and acrylic, yes, it is. And actually I did that with palette knife. There is some brush work to it there. You'll see it mainly back in here. And I kind of have a signature brush stroke that I use whenever I'm painting. You'll find it runs pretty consistent in a lot of my work. If I use a brush on it, it's a specific stroke and a specific brush, and I don't tell that. So, but it was actually, there's a Beth, I believed it was either Becky or Beth over at the Hetzel, picked up on some of my work, and they are exclusively the ones that handle my work here in Cleveland. But she said, I noticed a brush stroke. And so that brush stroke was the one that she saw. So this piece here, we're not going to block you out. There you go.
No, it's okay.
It's titled Hope.
Is that good?
Tip the top down a little.
This way down?
Yeah, we have a little bit of problem with the shine with the light. So we have to
I see. Okay.
Go a little bit further forward.
Yeah, so here you'll see you've kind of got like a starry night texture going on in the ocean waves down here.
Starry night texture. Those of you who are not into art is Van Gogh.
Van Gogh, yes, and you'll see
they have all kinds of
a lot of swirls and stuff in his work. Correct. And so, of course, the title is Hope, and we all know that most lighthouses, is a beacon of a shining star for people that are weary and lost at sea. So this piece here represented for me just hope in life again. I had a dream about being way out in the ocean and being lost and there by myself. And the ocean stream was the ocean was so rough, but I caught a glimpse of a lighthouse. So even to today, I'm not quite sure why. I think it was just a signal of why I was so lost, and that there was hope at the end of that. So this piece is titled Hope, and it's all about being lost and being found. So that's that piece.
Let me see if I don't... Oh, this is going to
Don't worry about it. It's okay. And then let's get into this piece here.
If I break it, I buy it, right?
We'll work it. Okay, so this piece here, and again, it's done by palette knife. This piece is called The Long Walk Back. This is kind of a recent piece that I really did, and it will be in the show come Sunday as well, unless it should sell before then. But this is about coming back from those very dark times in your life. It's walking back. It's coming back from a very obscure road of nothingness, coming back into life and vibrancy again. And you'll just
Very three-dimensional right here. It is
yes,
almost,
very 3D.
It's a 1/4 inch thick at least. Maybe 3/8. Yes.
And all of this was done with all this here, the blending of the different paints to get the different tones all within the paint level was all done with palette knife. So this is one of the pieces that also has brush strokes through it. And you'll notice little symbols in it. Like here, you'll see this is a heart for love. And then
And he's got a key on the back for his symbols. So the heart and number 4 and a delta and an S. And I don't know
movement. That piece is meant movement, fluidity in your life.
And
So these are all tribal symbols that are actually
okay.
put into
Actual
the paint.
tribal symbols.
Symbols.
So are you tribal or no?
No, I'm not. But this
You
piece
borrowed it from them.
yes. So this piece is just representative of coming back, being happy, allowing yourself or feeling worthy to be loved again, being successful again.
So what was the what were you feeling when
Coming back from that very dark space that I was in, like I said, it was recent, so it was just a piece that I did where I was kind of thinking of, whenever I was painting this, I've come so far, and it's been a very long walk. So this piece was about the long walk back. That's what
We
that
have
piece
a
was.
few comments.
Okay. Tell us.
On chat here. First of all, Vicky Crump says nice. Says hi.
That's
Hello.
That's Jarrett's mom.
Okay. Oh, hi, Vicky. How are you?
Vanessa Villarreal says hi, Susan. Hi, guest host. Wanda Elrod says hi, everybody. Gloria Stubblegram. I hope I didn't butcher
It's
that too
okay.
bad.
He said that, Gloria. I didn't.
Artwork is amazing. Wanda says beautiful. I love the lighthouse. And Peter Michael, I have one of his on my wall art in my house, and it's amazing.
Yeah, Peter Mitchell. He sure does. He ordered that from Florida. It was quite a large piece. It's absolutely beautiful. You can find it over on my website. I believe there is a picture of his piece of work there. But it's basically 6 foot wide and 5 foot high, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly. His piece of work was really unique for him. So very beautiful piece. And so, but thank you all for joining us. And please, if you've got questions, don't hesitate to reach out and ask me, because I'm happy to answer anything that I can at all. So we're going to move on and then to the next piece, Susan.
Yep.
Now, Susan, if you can get to this piece before Susan does, this piece is titled Destiny. Because don't we all have a destiny? I mean, we all have a destiny. We may not know where it is or what it is or how it's going to go, but we all have a destiny. This was about anyone and everyone that was lost and trying to figure out what their destiny is. So I actually did the angel wings that you see right here are all in metallic. It's in gold and bronze and coppers.
It is gorgeous.
And creams. And then, of course, the heart is representing love. Anything that can be the love of a parent, the love of your spouse, the love of your children or grandparents, anyone. And I really wanted to do something that was kind of representative of street art, but yet something that would be kind of unique with a little bit of a twist to it. So this was the piece, and this piece is titled Wings of Destiny. So again, it's done all with palette knife, with the exception of some of the brushed on pieces that are in the background. It is also very three-dimensional. You can feel it. You can feel the texture when you put your hand over it. And that is not maybe everybody's style of art, but it's certainly one that I have grown to love. And it's being able to bring that street look and capturing something, because there really is a story out there on those streets when you see some of that street art on the sidewalks and
Yes.
the walls. So this was my piece of street art, and I'm actually going to increase. I'm thinking about doing it in 2021, an entire series on that street art. So it's been extremely popular. So that's this piece, and then the next piece is over there.
Somebody's trying to talk to you, but
Well, I'm tied up at the moment.
they can put a voicemail, right?
Right,
And
exactly.
you can after the show's over, if you can call them back, and if they bought
Exactly.
something, then they bought something. Yeah.
Let me reach the other piece for you.
Oh, okay. It's too far for me to reach. Oh.
Here we go. And this piece is titled "Standing Alone." This piece I actually did back at the start of COVID. So I, had gone from having all of these shows and everything canceled, and I'm like, oh no, I'm alone now. The galleries can't have people in. I can't gather to have shows. I can't get up and close and personal. And that's one of the things that I really enjoy doing, is getting up close and personal and talking about the piece so that people have appreciation for the artwork. So I looked out over the mountain in Chattanooga near my home, and I saw this just single tree, and it was just being touched. It was at sunrise, and the tree branches were being touched, and it was kind of picked up this real bronze look. And I said, that's just so representational of how I feel at the moment. I'm standing alone. What do I do? Where do I go? And so Standing Alone came out on canvas, and it was just the way that the sun rising was coming up and hitting the sides of the mountains, and just I actually have a photograph that I
I'm
took.
almost gonna cry with this picture.
Don't do
Because
that.
it's so true. Mm-hmm. Because so many of us, yes, I have my spouse, and I've been blessed because my employees, we've been together, and we've just kind of just been there the whole time. But I'm a hugger. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of right now in my mind about 4 people that still either came curbside. This curbside thing killed me because I couldn't hug these people.
Right.
You have the mask on, and you could see their eyes, and you can see whether they're smiling or whatever. Mm-hmm. And standing alone, I think that's probably the worst thing of the whole thing, is people having to be alone.
It is. And, a lot of people were talking about mental health and dealing with our issues and dealing with what our life is again, and then to be hit for those people that actually deal with that every day, and then to be struggling from COVID, where, whether you personally believe it or don't believe it, most of us, I think, are trying to do whatever we can to keep everybody safe and still try to live within our own parameters of what we feel is right. And, you can't condemn anybody for that. But a lot of us find ourselves alone, and you have no interaction.
Or one other person.
And
I'm used to having the whole world as my family.
Yes.
And my personal space, you understand about personal space. My personal space is way up here. I've had to learn that I have to ask people if I can
get close
invade
to them.
their personal space. But me and nobody in my personal space but my husband.
Right, and that's hard.
And that's killing me.
Yes, it's hard. I understand. I'm very much a people person, and I have the same problem. It's just very, very difficult. And being an artist, part of what I do is that interaction with people and being able to share with them the story. It's very difficult for someone to relate to artwork by looking at a website. You don't, no matter how well it's photographed, or no matter what you do, it's impossible to see the texture. It's impossible to feel that texture, or to share with them what your vision or thought of was for that piece, And now we're trying to reinvent ourselves again to where we talk about things, through doing live shows on internet. And, I was just contacted recently by a person in London that wants to do a show, not London, in Paris. And they want me to come over and do a show over there. And I'm thinking to myself, how do I go to Paris and do a show, protect myself? How are they going to do this? So you really, you really have to navigate this. It's all brand new. I mean, and this is how I survive. I mean, this is my income. So if I'm not selling artwork, then I struggle.
Right.
And it's what I've dedicated my life to. Is very important to me. Just as many have, dedicated their lives as doctors or nurses or, whatever your profession happens to be, you've dedicated yourself. It's how you survive. Well, artists in general and in small business in general has suffered tremendously with this, along with people. So I always find myself now standing alone. And that became this piece.
Wow. We have any more?
No, that was the last piece I brought in tonight. But all of these will be available at the show on Sunday. So,
Unless I can come up with $350 before the show to get this on. I doubt it.
and if anybody does want any of the pieces, I mean, you may, I'm sure you're going to mention it, but the website, my website is rdavidscherer.com/works. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. It's R. David Gallery, all about the art. Or you can also call the Hetzel Art Gallery. They are exclusive to my work here in Cleveland. So they have access to my entire portfolio. You may also reach out and send me a direct message through Facebook, or you can email me at rdavidartist@gmail.com, or you can call Susan, and Susan knows how to get in touch with me.
I know how to get in touch with all these artists now.
Absolutely, and I'm sure that, if you're here in Cleveland and you want to see a piece, I'm be more than happy to bring it and drop it off over at the Hetzel Gallery so you can have a look at it, or meet with you myself, whatever works the best for anybody.
Well, the best thing is go over there on. Are they taking appointments on Sunday, or is it just
No, it's going to be social distancing
and make sure that
Yes, that's correct. I mean, we're going to keep everybody at a safe distance from each other.
And
of
a mask,
course, if we have absolutely a mask, and if we have a lot of people that should show up, then we'll try to do, a little bit of one-on-one, or I'll float through people at distances so that they can keep their little groups together and still admire the works and this, that, and another.
We got about 10 more minutes. I'm going to ask you a couple questions, but there are people that want the weekly craft tip. So the weekly craft tip, when you buy glue, you can buy it in a big bottle and then spoon it out into the little bottles and keep your big bottle. And usually in the big bottle, it's more economical. The other thing is you can do off brands of glue, and they're less expensive than the brand names. And glue, it usually doesn't matter whether or not you have a brand name or not.
It doesn't.
And that is my weekly craft tip. I usually do it about halfway through, but we've got so engrossed in this that I figure I'd better stick that in there somewhere, because I don't know, if I didn't, somebody would call me up and say, where was the weekly craft tip this week? But, we've got, about 7 more minutes?
Yeah, we got about 12 minutes.
12 minutes, okay.
Any questions from anybody out there?
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's got questions yet, but Gloria said that she really loves your work.
Well, thank you, Gloria. I appreciate it.
She's a quilter.
Oh, are you?
And supposed to be one of my part-time employees, but her main job has kept her too busy, so she hasn't been in very much. But so she's a quilter, and so all quilters are artists, and they understand about putting their heart into their art. And I had a couple things while we were going through the pictures, and was there ever a picture that you had a very hard time getting through it?
Every one of them.
Every one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of tears.
Oh, yeah, many times.
Lots of tears.
Yeah. Life is funny. It really affects you, and
I'm sure some of it was happy tears.
Yes.
Some of it was sad tears.
I don't believe that any one thing is, I've kind of evolved on this thought a little bit. I don't think that anything you experience in life, there's always something good that comes out of everything. If you've learned anything from that experience, then that's good. So I don't care if it is a relationship, if it is a business venture that went bad, or if it's just, a disagreement with a friend, or, it doesn't have to be anything major in your life. Anything that you go through in life, if you can look back and take something, I don't really get angry anymore. Yeah, I get my moments where I want to scream and knock on the wall, but I really have learned in my life to forgive.
Right.
I found that my key to happiness was in forgiving. I could forgive myself for mistakes that I've made, and I could forgive others for mistakes that they made, and I can say, we're only human. All of us are human. I don't think anybody ever intentionally, unless you're just really deranged, which you probably shouldn't be on the street, but I don't think anybody purposefully sets out to hurt another individual, whether it's your friend or, again, there are people that I think take things to the extreme, but before you can move past anything, you have to accept, you have to own it, you have to forgive whoever trespassed against you or whoever you trespassed against. You have to say, it's okay, I made this mistake. But most importantly, you've got to say, I'm sorry. And then it's up to the other person, if you hurt somebody, to wrestle with that and let them forgive you. Or it's up to you, being human.
Sometimes they won't say, I'm sorry.
No.
Sometimes they don't.
Some people aren't capable.
Right.
They're not capable to do that.
And people have asked me, when I tell them a little bit of things that have happened to me, how have you been able to forgive that person? Well, the forgiveness is not for that person.
It's for you.
And the forgiveness is not saying that what they did was right.
Right.
It's saying, okay, I'm letting go of it and I forgive you and I'm not going to be angry at you anymore, because anger lets them live in your brain and
Well, and more importantly, I think that it lives in you. If
Yeah.
you stay angry at somebody, at the end of the day, it's not really hurting them.
No.
It's hurting you. All that darkness is hurting you. It's clouding inside you. It's building up inside of who you are. And ultimately, whether you really realize it or not, it affects your interactions with other people. It
That's
affects your
true.
life. You can't move on. Whether it's through, divorce and, moving into a new life with a new partner, until you let all that go and you forgive inside yourself, and you forgive yourself for your part of that, if you had a part in that, you'll never be happy again. You've
That's
got
true.
to own it. Just own it. It's okay. Even if you don't say it out loud to somebody else, go in the spare bedroom, shut the door, go for a walk in the woods and just say, I want this out of me. Please leave me. I own my responsibility in this, or I forgive that person that trespassed upon me. And when you can accept that in your heart, then you can move on. And I'm talking from experience, because I moved on from the things that I needed to let go, good and bad experiences all the way. I'm not an angel. I'm not perfect. Not any of us are. We all learn, I hope that, I've always treated people the best that I could, but I've made mistakes. I'm not a perfect individual, but I have forgiven myself for those, realizing that I'm only human, and I was never set out to intentionally hurt anybody. And I'm sure that the people that hurt me, or the situations that hurt me, were not really intended to do that. We all deal with stresses in a lot of different ways. Those outlets have to find a way to get out. So once you just can say, I forgive,
Oh boy.
then you can walk that journey. And you know what? I'll finish on my part by simply saying, I walked into a wonderful life. I have a wonderful spouse that treats me well. I'm very grateful for. I have a very flourishing and very prosperous art business that I've worked very hard for. And I'm proud of that. And I'm proud because without all of those experiences, none of this would exist.
That's true.
So this is the something good that comes out of something bad. You just got to open your eyes and look for it, and open your heart, more importantly.
And I've got things working inside here. 'Cause, I mean, I've had hundreds of people that I've had to forgive because when you're abused as a child, you think that's normal, and then you put yourself in all these situations. And I've been struggling with my last husband before this one, and putting the pieces together, and some of the things you just said are helping with that. And I see now more how I can forgive.
It's easy to open your heart when you really look at how to do it. It's not. It doesn't have to impress anybody. I mean,
he probably doesn't even know that I'm still angry.
probably does, but maybe I think we all have to let go. Like I said, we have to let go of that anger, and you're not hurting that person by being mad at them
No.
anymore. They don't care.
They're
You're
not
hurting
even
you.
anywhere near my life anymore. Right?
They're hurting you until you forgive. Doesn't mean you have to forget.
Right. And it doesn't
Never forget.
And it doesn't mean that when you forgive somebody who did something really bad to you, and I could probably name you 15, and some of y'all would probably be totally shocked that I am even alive. There's actually 5 times in my life that I should be dead. Until you forgive that person. And I mean, I'm totally like, forgive myself for that boyfriend that pulled a knife on me. If I still hated him, I would still be living that and stuck in that, rather than now and be able to say, well, he did that, and Lord bless him and make him whatever. But I'm not saying I would put myself in that situation again.
No, not at all. But I don't think that you have to. But it's not about them. We learn from our mistakes. We learn from things that we are involved in our daily lives. Whether it's a mistake you made at work, or whether it's in your relationship, or whatever that case may be.
I don't make any mistakes every day, right?
But until you forgive,
I hide them sometimes.
Yeah.
It's about 15 a day.
absolutely, just forget and walk on.
Yes.
Take a step, walk away from it, and permanently leave it back there. And that takes some. I mean, I don't want to overemphasize this. It's not that always that easy to do. But once you get to that point in your life that you can walk away from it, the joy that's in your heart, I can't tell you. I was coming from a place that I was so consumed with anger of, why did this happen to me, or why did that happen to me, or why did I go through this, or why did I go? But once I got to that point where I said, okay, I can forgive this situation, or I can forgive that person, or you know what? I messed up. It was my fault. I forgive me.
That's the hardest thing.
That's the hardest thing.
To forgive yourself.
It is, but it isn't. For me, it was that whole coming full circle moment of saying, it was almost like, I think the only way that I really know how to explain it, it was like watching my life from the time that I was very young until that particular time when I had this self-discovery, watching my life go full circle. And when you really step out objectively and look at your life, you can say, I shouldn't have done that. I made a mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I should have gone left, not right. I shouldn't have done that. I made a mistake. Or I overlooked this person. I should not have done that. When you go full circle and you step back and you look at your life, but you've got to do it open-minded. You've got to do it with the understanding that you're not perfect.
Right.
And when you can say, okay, yeah, you know what? God put me on this earth and he didn't make me perfect. I'm allowed to make mistakes.
Right.
I messed up. Or that person was put on this earth. They messed up. I'm sorry that you messed up. I'm sorry that I messed up. I'm sorry that I broke this glass and cost you money at your business. And leave it there. It's up to them to take it. It's up to you to accept it. Walk away from it.
Well,
and
we
move
are
on.
done.
Yes.
We're done. And I bet you weren't even nervous, were you?
Oh no, not at all. I mean, I love talking about my artwork, and I love talking about where it's come from. You know, I think that if I can, in my one small way, if I can lighten the heart of one person tonight through this artwork, through them being able to say, okay, that I learned from that discussion, then it was a success. So,
Well, on that note, come see him at Hetzel on Sunday. And
Please.
get some of his art. And if you need to get in touch with him, you can get in touch with me at Hyder Hangout or here at the radio station. And we will see you next week.
thank you all for joining us.